Hi, it's Alexis Hasselberger, time management and productivity coach. The holiday season is approaching, and for the first time in a long time, for the first time for a lot of us since 2019, we are going to be celebrating with our extended family. We're going to be gathering in maybe larger groups, and vaccines have made this possible. And so I wanted to just share some tips with you about how to make what can be a really stressful event or set of events this holiday season and de-stress that. How do we make things less stressful? Through planning, right? When we plan in advance, we help ourselves to kind of ease into something. We make sure that we understand what could happen, what might happen, and how we think about these things. And so I have a bunch of tips for you about how to plan for the holiday season if you are the host, if you are traveling and you'll be a guest, and if you'll be traveling just somewhere and you need to take public transit or you need to take a plane, etc. And so I want to share these with you. So if you are the host, right, if you are going to be the one where people are all coming to your house, and that can be just incredibly stressful, right? Knowing that you'll have all these guests, you'll have people to entertain, you got a big meal to prep, etc. And so a few things you can try here to really put planning to use to help you to reduce stress and really be able to enjoy those holidays. So the first thing is have a game plan, make a game plan. What is your overall game plan for what needs to be done and when? Right? So not just for the meal, but also prepping and groceries and, making sure that guest rooms are set up, et cetera. When is all that stuff going to happen? If you can plan at least a week ahead and make sure you know what needs to happen on what day, you'll feel much better prepared and won't be overwhelmed at the last minute. Now, you also want to prepare a timeline where possible, especially for the meal. So you want to be thinking backwards from the time that you're serving a big meal of when you need to, put in something into the oven or prepare something else or when things need to come in and out. This is going to be important for helping you stay on schedule without being worried about it. Now, another thing that you can do is make sure that anything you can do in advance, you do it in advance. So if you can make the rolls in advance, if you can make the pies in advance, if you can change the sheets on the guest bedroom in advance, these are all things that are going to help you feel more in the moment and present with whoever it is you're celebrating with while you're actually celebrating. Now, you also might want to think about how do you do things. So if you're typically someone who really likes a formal table, think about maybe making it a little bit less stressful by keeping it more casual, serving things buffet style, making sure that there's a drink set, situation where people can get their own drinks and you don't have to be the one serving all of the time. You also can plan to accept help. So people are going to want to help. They're going to offer help. And sometimes we want people to help with certain things, and sometimes we'd rather do it ourselves. But if you come up in advance with a list of things where you could definitely use help from other people, then it'll be much easier when they offer help to pair them with the right task. Now, the last thing I want to mention here is around safety, right? As we mentioned, this is the first year in a while that we're going to be with other people probably, and there are still COVID out there, even though vaccines have made it much safer. But the younger kids, those under 11, they were just recently eligible for vaccines, and kids under 5 still aren't eligible yet. So it's not like we're out of the woods here. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about how to plan for that. So if you are the host, make sure that you really outline your guidelines about safety in your home and what that means in advance, both for yourself so that you'll know, and so that you can communicate those to your guests. So for instance, if you'll only be having vaccinated people over at your house, if they're eligible to be vaccinated, let people know that in advance so they're not trying to make other plans a day of. If you are going to require that people take an at-home COVID test before they come, then let people know that in advance so that they can prepare and they're not feeling put out at the last minute. If you want to take it a step farther, you could even mail people some at-home COVID tests and make it even easier for them to meet whatever your guidelines are. Now, let's talk about if you're the guest, right? If you're the one going somewhere else. So some things that you could do to plan in advance. Plan a gift, right? Ask in advance if they need anything, what they need. If they say they don't need anything, well, bring booze or flowers, right? Something that people can enjoy. Really plan to pitch in as well. So you are a guest, but plan to offer help, right? So that you take some of the stress off of those hosting. You also want to plan for when you'll leave. It can be, if we're with our family and some of us want to be there longer than others, it can be helpful in advance to set expectations with your partner or with kids about when we're going to leave. Are we going to leave after pie? Are we going to leave at 10 p.m.? When are we going to leave? Now, it also can be helpful, best laid plans don't always go as we hope. So it can also be helpful to create a signal or a sign with your family or your significant other of a like, let's get out of here. So if we need to go before planned, who knows why, right? Maybe our kids are just kind of spiraling out of control and they're getting too tired and melting down, or maybe we're just sick of being in this environment. We need to have a signal that we can easily share with our partner about, okay, it's time for us to wrap up and go without having to have hushed conversation, right? And then also, you want to think about safety as well for yourself and for your family. So, what are your guidelines for your own family around safety? Do you want your unvaccinated kids to be wearing masks, all the time when they're not eating or drinking actively? Do you, want to limit who can touch your brand new baby who definitely hasn't been vaccinated, for COVID, the flu, or anything else? Do you want to know that in advance so that you can communicate those things to people and so that you're not stuck really making a game time decision that doesn't really feel good or that you might regret later? Now, if you're going to be traveling and using airplanes, et cetera, not driving, you may also want to think about safety on that plane. So, what does that mean to you? Does that mean that you're bringing extra hand sanitizer and sanitizing wipes? Does that mean that you want to make sure that your kids are not going to be eating and drinking on the flight if they're not vaccinated and you don't want them to take their masks off? Are you okay with that? Right? All of these things are family decisions that you can make, and you want to make sure that you plan for that in advance. So, whatever you do this holiday season, I really hope that you have an amazing time celebrating with your family or your friends, and that you take a little bit of time to plan in advance to make sure that it's as stress free as humanly possible.
Hey, what's up? It's the video editor here. Just want to quickly say to drop a like and subscribe. And as you can see, only 8% of our total viewers are actually subscribed, so it would just be a big help.